Our story begins in a virtual reality game called Deus Ex Machina Ragnarok. It was a massive hit at launch and even became #1 in the world. The game was so popular, it had over 100 million concurrent players. But as the years went by, something terrible happened. The game started losing its popularity, and now its service is about to be shut down. In a dark forest, we see a group of players gathered around a campfire. Suddenly, a system message appears, announcing that the game will shut down in 30 minutes. This is Kaiser, the #1 player on the entire server. One of his friends, named Purpletaste, comments that he always wished this game would fail, but the Sword Emperor disagrees, saying the game was fun despite being based on luck. Then, Ku Chicken complains that it was impossible to get anything good because of the luck system. The swordsman doesn't seem to like his companion's complaint at all. Soon, the two start arguing, but the Sword Emperor just ignores the girl. Just then, the protagonist approaches the arguing group. He then comments that the game's ending is a bit disappointing. His muscular friend says it's normal for Kaiser to feel that way, since he was the most dedicated of them all. The big guy continues, saying that the protagonist gameplay was on another level. The masked girl then says the gods are fair, because they gave him the worst luck of all. Purpletaste agrees, since the #1 ranker doesn't even have a single legendary skill. The masked woman laughs, remembering the day she saw Kaiser fail 10 item enhancements in a row. His friend concludes that, on second thought, the protagonist is the unluckiest of them all. At this, everyone starts laughing at Kaiser's horrible luck. The Sword Emperor then says he's never seen anyone with such bad luck. A new system message appears, thanking everyone for playing until the very end. Purpletate's body begins to fade away as he says his goodbyes. The other two companions also start to vanish and say their farewells. In the end, only Kaiser is left alone in front of the campfire. The fire continues to burn brightly in the game's final moments. Soon after, the protagonist's body also begins to dissolve into light. The particles of light rise into the sky as the digital world comes to an end. The game's service has been terminated, and our hero finally takes off his virtual reality helmet. After this event, the story jumps 2 years into the future in a modern city. On one of the city's busy streets, a green bus peacefully makes its way. Inside the bus, 2 students are glued to their phones, commenting on a player's incredible control. In the video, a user single-handedly defeats a powerful boss known as the Demon Lord. The boy comments that this player from the Execution Guild is the best among all the rankers, but his friend prefers another player, the Empress, because of her proud solo strength. They then wonder if anyone in the world could possibly defeat those 2 players. At that, one of them remembers the old #1 ranker from Demrock, Kaiser, but no one knows what happened to him. In the background, the protagonist, who was listening to everything, gives a mysterious smile. 2 years have passed since the end of service for the old virtual reality game. Now, the most popular game is its successor, called Deus Savior. This new title has attracted many more players than its predecessor. Additionally, it features various new races and classes in a world of infinite freedom. The former #1 ranker, Kang Dian, has finally been discharged from the military and is ready to play again. Next, we see an apartment building on a sunny day. The young man enters his home, desperately looking for a capsule, and his sister is surprised by his arrival. She complains that he barely got home and is already thinking about playing video games again. His mother also complains, saying that sons become useless when they grow up, but Dian doesn't seem to care about the complaints and just makes a silly face. He then enters his room and finds a state of the art virtual reality capsule. With a tight hug, he celebrates the purchase he made with the money he saved in the army. The young man admires every detail of his new acquisition with a smile on his face. The capsule starts releasing steam, preparing to be turned on. He sits down and notices that despite being used, it's quite comfortable. Then, the ex-soldier picks up the helmet and prepares to enter the game. The helmet lights up with a bright blue glow as he initiates the connection to the game. The system then begins to scan his retina to verify his identity. After the verification is complete, the synchronization finishes and the game starts. He is welcomed into a magnificent hall with a message to create his character. The young man thinks his in-game appearance looks too much like a soldier. With so many customization options, the young man feels lazy and decides to just pick anything. Next, the system asks him to choose a nickname for his character. Then, with a confident smile, he decides to use his old and famous name, Kaiser. After the character creation is complete, the system sends him to the tutorial zone. Our hero is transported to the ancient battlefield of Arlen Castle, which is in flames. Diane is impressed by the realism of the scenery and remembers he's in a virtual reality game. Shortly after, a weapon selection screen appears in front of him. He notices the options are very basic, with nothing special among them. Because of this, he decides to choose the weapon he's already used to. The ex-soldier picks up the sword and says he's only used this type of weapon since the previous game. The player holds the weapon with a bored expression on his face. Just then, a knight in golden armor runs toward him. The captain of the knights, named Charlie, asks what he's doing there. Without waiting for an answer, the knight grabs his hand and pulls him into battle. He says the other mercenaries have already joined the fight, as the system forms a party. The two then run together through the castle courtyard, which is on fire. Suddenly, our protagonist is surprised by something he sees up ahead. On the ground are numerous bodies of defeated soldiers and monsters. Charlie reveals that the enemies have joined forces with the monsters and probably made a pact with one of them. He then yells that if they don't hurry, a terrible creature will appear. The captain hastily opens a door and says they'll get there in no time if they go that way. Curious, the young man takes a peek to see what's on the other side, but suddenly, an arrow flies toward them at high speed. Immediately after, several other arrows rain down around the knight captain. He then realizes that a group of hyena-like monsters is blocking the path. The knight says he'll clear the way, but doesn't notice an attack coming from his right. Before he's hit, our hero rushes forward to face the monsters alone. One of the creatures tries to attack him with a powerful blow, but he's faster. The protagonist's eyes glow blue as he prepares for a counterattack. The knight captain shouts desperately for him to be careful with the attack. With a swift move, our hero slides across the ground, closing in on the enemy. He manages to block the creature's strike with his sword in perfect timing. The monster is surprised by its opponent's speed and strength. Then, the player grips his weapon more firmly, preparing for the final attack. In a single move, he defeats the creature, which had no chance to defend itself. His cold, determined gaze shows he's not stopping there. With that, the young man advances on the next enemy without a second of hesitation. The other creatures are frightened to see their companion defeated so easily. One of them attempts a surprise attack from above to try and stop him, but our hero blocks the blow with his arm without any difficulty. He then readies a powerful punch to strike the monster head on. With a well-aimed kick, the player sends the creature flying. The monster is stunned by the blow and can't react. It then falls to the ground, and the other two monsters prepare to fight. The remaining monsters seem scared, but don't give up the battle. His eyes glow again as he prepares to end the fight. With a single sword strike, he defeats both enemies at once. He lands stylishly on the ground after finishing his attack. The ex-soldier stands over the body of the monster he just took down. Then, he swings his sword to clean the blade. The young man says he was worried, but his skills are still sharp. He even comments that his body feels lighter than usual. The knight captain is impressed that he defeated 5 monsters all by himself. A system message informs him that Charlie's favorability has increased, and the young man wonders what that is. He remembers the old game also had this system, but finds it strange that it increased with just one fight. The captain starts to think that perhaps this mercenary is a hero from ancient legends. Suddenly, Charlie's favorability reaches its maximum level, and now he trusts the player blindly. With this, our hero earns a rare title that increases his affection gain rate and his stats. The knight then thanks him, saying that thanks to him, things have become much easier. He says that now they just need to defeat the dark sorcerer to win the war. Suddenly, a purple energy emerges, and the captain panics, thinking the summoning has already begun. At that moment, several dark creatures with bat wings emerge from the darkness. The knight then says he'll hold them off and asks the player to go stop the summoner. He turns to the protagonist, enveloped in a golden aura, and says he trusts him with this mission. With a serious look, he wishes for the castle of Arlen to bless the hero. Immediately after, the captain yells and charges forward to face the creatures alone. Our protagonist is confused, wondering why the knight went to fight. He remembers that in the tutorial video, it was Charlie who entered the boss room. The young man knew the game changed with the user's actions, but he didn't expect this much. Even though surprised, he walks toward the large door surrounded by dark energy. Then, the ex-soldier stands in front of the entrance, preparing for the challenge. A message warns that only one person can enter, and if they fall, the boss will recover. At that moment, the player realizes this is a secret game event. The system explains that secret events give rewards when activated under special conditions. With a confident smile, he thinks there's no reason to avoid something so good. So, he accepts the challenge and confirms that he wishes to enter the room. Our hero then steps through the door and is enveloped by the purple energy. Inside, a sorcerer screams in pain because the creature he summoned won't obey him. We see the jaw of a giant monster that has just attacked its own master. Our view shifts to the blood-stained mouth of the colossal creature as it roars with fury. The system identifies it as a legendary boss, the iron-blooded demon dragon. The protagonist is in shock to discover that it's a legendary level monster. It's explained that the new game, Du Savior, borrowed many elements from Demrock. One of these elements is the rarity ranking system: common, rare, heroic, and legendary. This classification also applies to bosses, but there's an even more special category. The monsters in this category are the only ones that have a proper name in the game. The beast's full name is the Chained Abyssal Dragon of Iron Blood. This means our hero is about to face a named boss in the tutorial. The creature stares at the player with its glowing red eyes, preparing for the fight. With a swift movement, the monster lunges forward, with the clear intention of devouring its opponent. Next, the dragon lets out a roar so powerful it sends the young man flying. A system window appears, showing that the shout has weakened all of his stats. The player is furious and complains that the game developers have no shame. He realizes his only advantage is that the dragon's stats are also sealed, but he knows that if he's hit by that huge creature's paw, it's game over in an instant. The ex-soldier admits he's never faced a situation like this, not even in the previous game. However, he remembers that in tight spots, he always made the same choice. So the protagonist gets up, determined, saying he'll give it his all or go down trying. His eyes glow blue, revealing his determination to fight with all his strength. The dragon attacks with its gigantic paw, trying to crush the small human. But the ex-soldier manages to dodge the blow with an agile and precise movement. He takes the chance to slide across the ground and land a strike on the beast's tail. The creature roars in pain and anger at the player's unexpected attack. Without wasting a second, our hero charges forward again to continue the offensive. Suddenly, he looks back, surprised by the speed of the monster's counterattack. With his sword, he manages to block the dragon's attack in a brilliant impact. The player leaps back, spinning in the air to distance himself from the creature. His eyes glow once more as he calmly analyzes the situation. The system shows he dealt 120 damage with his 2 hits. He admits the community was right about the boss's difficulty. In an online forum, other players comment that it's crazy to try and take down the tutorial boss. One user says that just hearing the dragon's name gives them chills. Another asks if it's possible to defeat it. But the answer is that not even the exterminator could. They conclude that the damage is just for realism because the monster is unbeatable. Suddenly, the boss's name changes to Abyssal Dragon of Sloth, and everyone is confused. In the general chat, players wonder if someone actually managed to defeat the creature. Back in the fight, the monster roars in pain and in fury from our hero's attacks. With one last strike, the protagonist plunges his sword into the dragon's head. A system message confirms that he was the first to defeat a legendary boss in the tutorial. Exhausted and injured, the player curses at the creature for being so persistent. He then realizes that if he was the first to defeat it, that means something important. It means that not even his old friends managed to overcome the challenge. In a flashback, his companions complain that the boss was impossible to beat. With a smile on his face, he wonders how his old friends are doing now. The system rewards him with the title of First Exterminator, and new traits manifest. Several traits appear on the screen: Weapon Master, Hidden Dragon Hero, and Overcomer. To his surprise, a unique trait called Eye of Truth also manifests. The ex-soldier is confused because you normally only get one trait in the tutorial. Traits are one of the special systems in the game Dua Savior. They can be for exploration or combat, and their grades depend on the player's achievements. The young man analyzes the bonuses he received, such as increased stats and immunity to diseases. His eyes glow as he focuses on the unique trait he just acquired. The Eye of Truth is a unique trait that allows the user to see what is hidden. He thinks the other traits are incredible, but they aren't unique in the game. The protagonist knows that many players probably have at least one of these traits, but the Eye of Truth is different because only one exists in the entire world. He realizes he hit the jackpot by getting a unique trait and 5 others at once. The legendary title also gives incredible damage bonuses and stat increases. The young man feels on top of the world, thinking that for someone as unlucky as him, this chance is amazing. He leaves the room and finds the knight captain outside. The knight is all wounded and out of breath after the tough battle he faced. With a tired look, he seems unable to believe what he's seeing. Charlie then walks slowly toward our hero, still in shock. The protagonist is completely confused by the whole situation. The captain asks if he really took down the creature, and the young man confirms it. Charlie is impressed that he doesn't have a single scratch and asks who he is. But the player ignores the question, saying his name and where he came from don't matter. The knight then says that heroes are like flowers that bloom in times of chaos. The young man looks bored, listening to the whole Kletchy's speech. Charlie continues, saying that his existence will bring great changes to the world. Next, the knight kneels, asking for the honor of becoming his sword. The system informs him that he wants to swear loyalty and become his subordinate. Our hero is startled, but the message clarifies that the captain has already passed on. He then remembers that the tutorial is just a reenactment of past events. Understanding that it's a symbolic gesture, the player decides to accept the oath. The system confirms the oath and says that Charlie will have a peaceful end. The protagonist becomes thoughtful at the idea of the knight's tranquil passing. Shortly after, a blue light indicates they will be teleported soon. The two are pulled into a large teleportation portal. In a new setting, the captain turns to the young man and calls him Lord. The knight then asks with a smile where they should go now. Our hero thinks for a moment about what his next destination will be. He replies with a smile that they will go wherever they are needed. The player adds that the world is in chaos and needs help. Charlie repeats his new lord's words with a look full of hope. The system begins a countdown to teleport to the Pantheon. Before leaving, the knight hands a necklace with a purple gem to his lord. The young man takes the item, wondering what it is as time runs out. The knight disappears, giving thanks and asking him to save the world. Finally, the teleportation ends, and he is taken to his destination. The young man arrives at the famous Pantheon, a place to choose his path. The countdown to teleport to the Pantheon continues. Before leaving, the knight hands him a necklace as a final gift. The player holds the item, wondering what its purpose is. With a final plea for salvation, the knight's body dissolves into light. The system then welcomes our hero to the Pantheon. This is the place where he will decide which god he will serve on his journey. The ex-soldier looks around and finally understands that he is in the famous Pantheon, but this place is better known to players as the Gacha Room. Here, he can only serve a single god, and his class will be based on them. Furthermore, the gods themselves are also divided into different tiers. Fable gods are beings who became deities through ancient legends. Hero gods were humans who ascended to the Pantheon in the past. And finally, mythological gods are those who created entire mythologies. The system then informs him that each card contains a god and asks him to choose. The young man thinks he's not lucky, so there's no point in being too greedy. But suddenly, he notices that one of the cards has a bright golden color. At that moment, his unique trait, Eye of Truth activates automatically. He is surprised to realize that his new ability is truly incredible. With this power, he can guarantee a high-tier god in every role. The player remembers how his friends always teased him for his horrible luck. Although he always laughed, he felt really bad about the whole situation. But now, with this new ability, he can become a top ranker again. The young man gets extremely excited about the possibility, but tries to stay calm. With a determined look, he decides he will only pick the golden cards. Without hesitation, he grabs the shining card that stands out among the others. The system reveals he pulled the mythological god Tar, the one-armed god of the sword. With a victorious smile, he celebrates getting a mythological god. But the system informs him that he cannot become an apostle of Tur and must choose again. The young man is shocked and wonders why he can't be an apostle. He has never heard of a situation like this before in any game. Suddenly, he remembers the word vessel and begins to understand the problem. Normally, a goddess is supposed to appear to players after they fall in the tutorial. But since he defeated the boss, the goddess never appeared to give him her revelation. He then opens his status screen to check his character information. Instead of the apostle class, it just says adventurer, which worries him. Frustrated, he wonders what he should do now that everything has gone wrong. At this rate, all the cards are useless, since he doesn't have a vessel. He kneels in despair, lamenting that he waited so long for this moment. The young man considers deleting the character, but would have to wait 60 days. But at that moment, something unexpected on the floor catches his attention. He sees a red card glowing and is very surprised by its color. The player had never heard of a card of this color and picks it up. The system informs him that he has selected the last forgotten adventurer, Cassiar. With wide eyes, he realizes he has found another secret event. With this, his class advances to last adventurer, and he acquires new abilities. His unique ability allows him to use any skill without class restrictions. He smiles, thinking that now he can use literally every skill in the game. With this, he can pick only the most useful skills and create his own build. Furthermore, with the Eye of Truth, he can guarantee any skills he wants. Combining all this, he will become a complete master with no weaknesses. The system then informs him that the class change is complete and will teleport him. With a confident smile, he thinks it was worth trying again. Now, he is closer than ever to becoming a ranker again. He is then transported to Aftertell, the city of beginnings. There, he sees a player complaining that he had no luck in the gacha. Another player tries to cheer him up, saying the game has a lot to offer. In the background, two men in suits watch the newcomers with disinterest. They are actually recruiters looking for new members for their guilds. One of the recruiters complains that he needs to meet his monthly quota, or his manager will get on his case. Just then, he gets his colleague's attention and points to a nearby player. They observe our hero, who looks completely worn out and mentally drained. With that, the two decide to leave, as it's not worth recruiting guys like him. Our hero then analyzes the item he got and discovers it's a hero-tier necklace with incredible options. Covered in a slime of happiness, he celebrates his good fortune with the item. Suddenly, a system notification appears in front of him with a goblin cleanup quest. The task asks him to take down 40 goblins, and other players celebrate that there's no line. The hunter, Dante, turns to the crowd and says he leaves the quest in their hands. He even encourages everyone to go into battle and finish off those goblins. All around, various players start looking for members to form their parties. The protagonist watches the activity and notices that everyone is teaming up. At that moment, a group approaches and invites him to level up to level 12. His new companions insist that he join their party to hunt together. The young man considers the offer and agrees that they aren't wrong about the advantages. Hunting in a party is easier and gives extra experience, so it's almost essential. The ex-soldier accepts the invitation, and the party interface shows all the members. The party leader sees his name and asks if he's a fan of Kaiser. The girl then explains that he was the #1 player in the old game, and thinks he's a fan. Our hero gets a little embarrassed by the comment and scratches his ear, trying to play it cool. With the party formed, everyone is excited to level up quickly. The protagonist gets into the spirit and also gets excited to start the hunt. Next, the party leader uses his shield to stun a goblin for 1 second. He celebrates the hit and yells for all his companions to attack. The archer and the mage then launch their magic attacks at the enemy. The monster is hit head-on, and a system message confirms it has been defeated. Seeing their companion fall, the other goblins become furious and charge to attack. The green creatures rush toward the group of players with all their might. One of the monsters gets close to the tank and tries to hit him with a dagger strike. His companions panic and shout his name, worried about the attack. The tank yells for the party to get the aggro from the goblin that's pinning him down with its shield. He asks them to wait a second because his skills are still on cooldown. Just then, our hero leaps over the tank to help in the fight against the monsters. The party leader is shocked by the new member's sudden action. The green creature gives a malicious smile, preparing to attack the player. With a swift movement, the ex-soldier launches a powerful attack with his sword. He defeats one of the goblins with a single blow, and a system message appears. The tank continues to hold his shield, not understanding what's happening. The other 2 companions are also surprised by Kaiser's speed. Then, without wasting any time, the young man charges toward the next group of enemies. His sword attack slashes the ground, creating an explosion of blue energy. In the blink of an eye, he defeats 2 more monsters at once. Excited, the archer and the mage cheer, saying that Kaiser is the best of all. The protagonist then sheathes his sword after clearing all the enemies in the area. With that, the party leader approaches and says he's really skilled. He comments that at this rate, they'll finish the quest with great ease. But suddenly, he notices something and warns Kaiser to watch out behind him. As he turns around, the ex-soldier sees a horde of goblins emerging from the forest. The creatures advance in large numbers, their red eyes glowing in the darkness. The tank is terrified and says they can't handle so many enemies. But ignoring the warning, our hero charges forward alone to face the horde of monsters. The goblins run toward the player with their spears raised, ready for battle. He then leaps into the air, preparing for a devastating aerial attack. His eyes glow red as he focuses his energy into the sword. The camera pans out, showing the calm forest before the big explosion. Then, a massive blue explosion destroys everything around with full force. In a flashback, his old friend Purple-Taste complains about his recklessness. Kaiser, covered in grime, then asks what he means by that. The big guy explains that jumping headfirst into a fight with low health is insane. But the former #1 ranker replies with a smile that in the end, he always wins. Purple-Taste is confused but agrees that even if he wins, his attitude is very dangerous. Back in the present, the ex-soldier faces the horde of goblins and wonders if this is recklessness. He even admits it might seem that way, but there's no need to take unnecessary risks. At that moment, the party leader panics and decides to run, saying they can't win. But our hero charges head on into battle, determined to prove he's not reckless. In his thoughts, he asserts that he has never fought recklessly in his entire life. The player then flies toward the monsters with his sword in hand, ready to attack. With his eyes glowing red, he remembers that he only fights when he's sure of victory. The surrounding forest remains silent for a brief moment before the impact. Immediately after, a large explosion of blue light devastates the area, and the system announces the skill as Smash. With a critical hit, he defeats a goblin and gets a monster hide as a reward. He then realizes that now only a single poison dart goblin is left to defeat. Without wasting time, the young man quickly advances on the remaining enemies. He thinks that when fighting many enemies, it's always best to eliminate the ranged attackers first. With his sword, he cuts down several monsters at once, clearing the path. Suddenly, the last ranged goblin readies its blowgun to shoot a dart. The player manages to dodge the attack, while continuing his relentless onslaught. Just then, his Overcomer trait activates, allowing him to surpass his limits. His eyes glow yellow, and he blocks a monster's blow with ease. The green creature is surprised by its opponent's strength and can't react. With a spinning move, he finishes off the enemy with a precise cut. He slides across the ground, closing in on the last and largest goblin of them all. The monster attempts a powerful attack, but the protagonist defends it with his sword, The impact of the weapons creates sparks as the two test their strength in combat. With a cold, determined look, he prepares his next move to end the fight. Then, he throws his sword like a dagger, and the system notes that his trait removes restrictions. His adventurer class allows him to use the basic dagger skill, exploit weakness. The young man then grabs the dagger from his waist, preparing for the attack. With a quick and precise strike, he hits the monster's eye using his new skill. The system confirms that he exploited the enemy's weakness and landed a critical hit. He picks up a monster's club and attacks the last goblin with a powerful blow. With this, his weapon master trait removes restrictions, letting him use new skills. His eyes glow red as he dodges the enemy's attack. The creature's eyes widen in fear, seeing the player's fury. Without hesitation, the ex-soldier grabs the monster's neck with incredible force. Then, he raises the club, preparing to deliver the final blow to the creature. With a single swing, the protagonist finishes off the monster using his new skill. Several system messages appear, and his weapon mastery levels up. Looking at the defeated goblins, he thinks this was very good. The young man didn't expect to be able to learn weapon skills so quickly. With an excited smile, he realizes this is much better than he imagined. In the distance, the party leader watches everything from behind his shield, still in shock. He keeps wondering if what he just saw makes any sense. The tank thinks that even an experienced party struggles to hunt a few goblins, but that newcomer managed to defeat them all by himself without any help. At that moment, the name Kaiser comes to his mind with a red, ominous aura. He then wonders if that player is the famous Kaiser from the old Demrock, but he shakes his head and dismisses the idea, thinking it's impossible. The tank remembers that the real Kaiser disappeared for 2 years without a trace. He thinks it doesn't make sense and wonders who this mysterious guy is. Meanwhile, the protagonist makes a strange face and says that was very sweet. Seeing that scene, the party leader thinks his new companion is a bit crazy. A glint of determination appears in the ex-soldier's eyes as he plans for the future. He watches the monster's bodies disappear and comments on the game's weapons. With a smile, he feels satisfied that he can use any weapon and its skills. The young man then opens his status screen and sees that he leveled up 3 times at once. He decides his base will be the sword and distributes his attribute points. The player notices his other attributes are high because of his titles and the necklace. His party members approach and say he's truly amazing. Everyone is impressed and congratulates him, saying he's the best of all. The tank says that watching the fight, that's all he can think about, and the archer agrees he seems like Kaiser. The archer is impressed and says he would believe it if someone told him he was the real Kaiser. With an awkward smile, our hero thinks to himself that he is, in fact, the real Kaiser. One of them then asks how he managed such insane damage, and if he pulled a mythic god. The young man replies that it's because of his traits and the luck of getting a title. Impressed, they wonder if he's going to become a ranker, and the tank already wants to be friends. They stand there for a while as the protagonist observes his new friends. The party leader then announces that their stamina is back and asks if they want to hunt more. At this, the archer gets excited and suggests they take on 10 monsters at once. Our hero agrees with the idea and gives the group an excited smile. With his confirmation, everyone gets excited and shouts that they're going into battle with Kaiser. He hurries his companions with a serious look so they don't waste time. In another memory, his old friends argue about farming while waiting for him. Back in the present, the young man wonders what his old companions are doing now. Suddenly, a rare, rank-urgent quest appears, asking for the blood of a mutant goblin. The ex-soldier faces the quest's target, a powerful mutant goblin warrior. The group then arrives at the entrance of the cave, where the monster is located. His companions admit to being nervous, and he says that's normal. The protagonist explains that they managed to level up by hunting on the way here. Now everyone is at level 9, but this dungeon is known as the Newbie Killer. In an online forum, other players complain that it's a dungeon where your demise is guaranteed. The dungeon has nicknames like Art is Tom, and none of them sound very friendly. The goblin warrior seems much stronger, and the difficulty is much higher than the others. Additionally, the dungeon requires teamwork with specific attack patterns. Combining these two factors, it becomes the famous newbie killer as the group enters. Inside, other players complain they'd rather go solo and wanted to smack their teammates. The group's mage overhears the conversation and comments that the dungeon must be very difficult. The leader says they need to clear it or they won't be able to do the next raids. Our hero agrees with his teammate's statement. He thinks that, just like in real life, guilds prefer experienced players for recruitment. On the forum, a player asks if they can lie about clearing it, and another says it's fine, but other players mock him, saying everything is recorded in the Book of Adventures. The Book of Adventures is a system that records all of the players' actions. It logs everything from quests and materials to unlocking new regions and defeating bosses. With this, everything a user does in the game is forever marked in this magic book. Therefore, to enter a raid in the next city, the group has no choice but to clear this. Our hero thinks that the next city's boss is mandatory, unlike the goblin. With firm and determined steps, he leads the group into the dark cave. They then arrive at a giant door, where the system displays the dungeon details. With a confident smile, the ex-soldier turns to the group and asks if they should go in. His companions nervously agree, saying they've read the strategy guide several times. The group stands in silence for a moment, observing the dark interior of the dungeon. The ex-soldier then gets the tank's attention, who is a bit surprised by his demeanor. The party leader then approaches the large stone door blocking the path. He touches the entrance, which glows with a blue light, and says they should enter. A system message asks for confirmation, and the archer excitedly shouts that they should go. The mage also agrees with a determined look, holding her staff firmly. With a confident smile, our hero also confirms that he's ready for battle. The system verifies the players, and the stone gates begin to open slowly. He then stretches and says, it's been a while since he's warmed up for a fight. The group enters the boss room, preparing for the challenge that awaits them. They walk silently through the stone corridor, toward the heart of the dungeon. The cave walls are lit by torches, creating a tense and gloomy atmosphere. In the background, the mutant goblin warrior appears, and the system shows it's an elite boss. The intimidating creature holds its enormous weapon and glares at the group with a fierce look. Next, the monster lets out a terrifying roar, showing its sharp fangs. The tank is in shock to realize it's an elite boss and wonders if this is even a game. Our hero then shouts to alert his companions that the enemy is coming. With a powerful leap, the goblin charges toward the group to start the fight. The party leader thinks that no matter how incredible Kaiser is, this will be difficult. He knows the ex-soldier can't protect all three of them at the same time, so the tank prepares for the attack and says he needs to do his part. With a furious roar, the creature charges with all its might toward the party leader. He then yells for all his companions to spread out to avoid the blow. The group manages to dodge, and the monster hits the ground with a devastating impact. Lying on the ground, the tank realizes the boss's first attack pattern is a charge. He gets up and manages to block the creature's blow with his shield in perfect timing. This stuns the goblin for 2 seconds, and the tank yells that this is their chance. The archer and the mage seize the opportunity and launch their magic attacks at the enemy. The attacks hit the monster head on while it's still recovering from the blow. The creature recovers and its eyes glow red, showing its fury. The party leader is surprised by the dungeon boss's quick recovery. The goblin then advances with its weapon, raised toward the party's tank. With a swift movement, the creature unleashes a powerful blow at the player. His protection trait activates, and he manages to withstand the impact of the attack. The skill increases his defense, and he yells that he's got the monster's aggro. At that moment, our hero leaps over the creature to attack from behind. The mage launches a ball of blue energy that hits the goblin squarely. Immediately after, another magic attack explodes on the monster, dealing significant damage. With a smile, the tank thinks things are going well, and the first phase will be stable. But suddenly, the protagonist yells a warning that the attack pattern is coming. The party leader is confused because the boss's health hasn't reached 10,000 yet. With wide eyes, he realizes the attack pattern was activated ahead of schedule. The The creature then stomps its foot on the ground, preparing for a new attack. Before the monster attacks, the soldier runs in and lands a direct hit on its chest. The creature roars in pain and anger at the player's unexpected attack. The tank watches the scene, unable to believe what he's seeing. Without wasting time, our hero charges forward again to continue the offensive. With a confident smile, he says the attack pattern has been dealt with. In a memory, a reporter says Kaiser's group is the strongest and asks for his secret. The former #1 ranker replies that the secret is for everyone to do what they do best. The reporter then explains the standard composition of a group with a tank, DPs, healer, and support. But she notes that Kaiser's group doesn't have a tank and wonders how that's possible. The young man looks thoughtful and agrees that tanks are indeed very important. He explains that their role is to fight the boss, interrupting its attack patterns. That's why he plays the role of the tank himself, leaving the reporter completely shocked. With a confident smile, he shows that he's capable of playing any role in the group. Back in the fight, the monster roars in pain and fury from the player's attacks. The party leader is shocked, wondering if what he's seeing makes any sense. He thinks that even tanks can barely interrupt the patterns, but Kaiser does it without skills. And on top of that, he does it all while being a DPS, which is even more impressive. The goblin becomes furious and prepares a new attack to try and finish off the players. But our hero says that an attack pattern of this level is nothing to him. With several quick strikes, he hits the monster head on, dealing massive damage. His companions are impressed to see that he interrupted the pattern again. The party leader is left with his mouth wide open, in disbelief of the new member's skill. With that, the boss's health reaches 20%, and it becomes even more enraged. The tank then yells for everyone to prepare for the second phase of the battle. The archer and the mage get ready for the challenge that lies ahead in the fight. A system message announces that the monster's health has dropped and its trait has manifested. At that, the warrior trait manifests, and the creature stomps its foot on the ground. All of its stats increase, and it enters a berserk state, becoming stronger. Then, the mutant trait also manifests, and our hero says it's finally here. The mutant trait is special because each boss gains a different and unique ability. The mutant goblin warrior received 2 of these special traits known as 007 Bang. If the monster is hit by 4 physical attacks, the group suffers a debuff, and if it takes 3 magic attacks in a row, all the damage will be reflected back at the players. Furthermore, the berserk effect reduces everyone's attack and movement speed by 4%. The archer complains that it's already hard enough to fight normally, and now there's a debuff. But the protagonist's hero trait protects him, ignoring the berserk and mutant effects. With a confident smile, the young man realizes the debuffs don't apply to him. The tank then yells for everyone to focus on dodging the monster's attacks. He then turns to the protagonist and asks if he has any way to handle the situation. Our hero asks him to wait a moment, leaving the party leader confused. Enveloped in a red aura, he says he's going to slice up the monster by himself. His companion is left with his mouth agape, unable to believe what he just heard. The soldier then leaps over the creature to continue the relentless assault. The creature roars in fury and tries to hit him with a powerful blow from its weapon, but the player manages to block the attack with his dagger in perfect timing. He takes the chance to slide across the ground and prepare for the next strike. With several quick and precise cuts, he hits the monster squarely all over its body. His companions wonder why he wasn't affected by the boss's debuffs. The tank is confused because he thought the young man was just a damage god, but he realizes the player's figure looks like that of a true battle god. With a swift movement, the soldier clashes with the goblin's attack in an explosion. He then reveals himself as a true battle god, with a fierce look. The player dodges the creature's blow and counterattacks with a precise cut. Without giving the monster a chance to breathe, he continues his relentless attack. The party leader finally realizes that this player is the real Kaiser. The creature roars in frustration at not being able to hit its opponent. With a cold and determined look, the young man faces the monster, preparing for more. His sword attacks slice through the air with impressive speed. With each blow, he deals more and more damage to the creature, which can't defend itself. He continues his offensive without a second of hesitation, nearing the end. At that, his level increases, and his sword proficiency reaches level 7. Because of this, the damage of his sword skills increases by 7%. Additionally, the rage effect deals an extra 10% damage to the boss. With his eyes glowing red, he raises his sword for the final blow. He then unleashes a devastating attack that cuts the creature in two with ease. The creature roars in pain one last time before being completely defeated. With his final blow, he cuts through the monster's body, which falls lifelessly to the ground. A system message confirms they have defeated the boss, and the dungeon is cleared. His companions then approach the creature's body, and they are impressed. The archer calls over the tank and asks what he thinks about the new party member. With a serious look, the party leader wonders if that player is the real Kaiser. The archer and the mage are shocked and surprised by the possibility. The three then stand in silence, processing the idea that they might be playing with a legend. In the distance, the protagonist observes the body of the monster he just defeated alone. A system screen informs them that they broke the dungeon record with an incredible time. Because of this, they reclaim the first place spot, and rewards are distributed based on contribution. As a reward, the young man gets the top piece of the goblin leather armor. Next, he also receives the red shoulder pads of the mutant warrior. The protagonist also gets the monster's sword and a new title, Time Attack. The Throne of the Time Attacker title increases his speed and stats with each new record. With a victorious smile, he says that, as expected, goblins are really the best. And then he adds that they're even better when they're sliced up. Back in the cave, the entire group is looking over the rewards they just earned. The archer is impressed with his hero title, and the mage is happy she got rare options. With that, they thank the protagonist, because without him, they never would have gotten these prizes. The young man then replies with a smile, saying it was no big deal. At that moment, the group leader calls him over with a slightly serious expression. He then asks if the former soldier would like to see the rankings, where their group is in first place. The tank apologizes for not changing the group's name, which is now registered under the protagonist's name. But the protagonist says that having his name in first place on the rankings is a great privilege. He explains that with this achievement, they could even join one of the top 10 guilds. The group leader reflects that even though it was a beginner's dungeon, they still reached the top. He also realizes they ranked higher than even the fearsome player named Annihilation. Because of this, the group apologizes again and offers him financial compensation for what happened. Hearing the offer, the former soldier gives a small smile, as if he was already expecting it. He says it's all right, and his companions are surprised by his calm reaction. The young man explains that these things happen since the ranking is automatic, and he wasn't even expecting first place. With a bored look, he adds that he doesn't like drawing attention and finds it tiring, but in his thoughts, he has a wicked smile and says to himself that the rewards are what really matter. The system then displays his prizes, the complete Mutant Goblin Warrior set. These items are the best you can get early on, ranging from rare to rare plus. With a satisfied smile, the player thinks there's no way he can be in a bad mood with such great items. Seeing his strange reaction, the group leader gets worried and asks if he's really okay. The protagonist then covers his face, trying to hide his excitement about the new gear. He pulls himself together and says everything is fine so his friends won't feel bad. The group is impressed by his attitude, and the tank even swears his loyalty to him. Suddenly, a blue light surrounds everyone, signaling that the dungeon is about to end. As they're being teleported, the tank confesses that he thought the praise for the old Kaiser was exaggerated. But now, looking at his new friend, he finally understands what it means to be the Kaiser. Our hero then turns around and hurries the tank, who was lost in thought. The group leader hurries up, and they all walk out of the dungeon together. With a flash of light, the group is finally teleported out of the dark cave. The group is teleported to an alley in the city of Ard to turn in the quest. When they enter a shop, they are surprised because the inside looks very different from the outside. The protagonist just observes the place with a curious look showing no surprise. Inside, a hooded man appears behind the counter and stares at them in silence. He reveals himself as the alchemist called and gruffly asks what they want there. Our hero's companions think the alchemist seems scary, but the tank scolds them. The former soldier approaches, and Called asks if he's already given up since he still needs the blood. Then, the young man places the vial with the goblin's blood on the counter, and the alchemist is shocked. He can't believe the group got the item in less than 40 minutes. Our hero then confirms with a confident smile, and his companions pose proudly. The alchemist is impressed, and the player's title increases his affinity with the NPC. For completing the quest, he gets gold experience, a ring, and even goes up 2 levels. The system informs them they pass the test and can go to the main continent with a skill ticket. Upon reaching level 10, he also gets a random ticket, and his friends celebrate excitedly. Due to the special conditions, he also receives a postcard written by the alchemist. The item is a rare plus card with Called his own handwriting. He realizes it's a special reward and decides he'll check the details later. His focus now is on the skill ticket, as it's the moment he's been waiting for since the Pantheon. The blue cards from the skill draw then appear in front of him, glowing brightly. Several cards float around the player as he prepares to make his choice. He even comments that the draw doesn't have the same grand aura it had in the Pantheon. At that moment, his Eye of Truth activates again, and his eyes glow gold. With his ability, he realizes there's nothing special since it's a low-level ticket. Because of this, he acquires the common-level skill Lunge Cut for Swordsman. The former soldier thinks the skill isn't bad, but the really important draw is the other one. But when he goes to use the legendary ticket, the system warns him that his connection time is up. A forced logout is about to happen in 5 seconds, and the young man is completely shocked. It's explained that this is a system to prevent players from getting addicted to the virtual world. He is stunned to realize that 10 hours have already passed, and the countdown continues. The cards from the draw are still there, but time is running out, and the countdown won't stop. With a desperate look, he tries to grab the card before time runs out. In the last second of the countdown, a golden card appears, shining brightly. However, he can't grab the card in time, and the system forcibly disconnects him. The countdown continues as the cards float in front of him. His desperation grows as time is almost up. The golden card continues to glow, and he knows he has to reach it. But in the end, time runs out, and he is disconnected without the ability. He then returns to the real world, inside his capsule in the dark room. Still wearing the helmet, he looks dazed from the sudden logout. He lets out a groan of frustration over what just happened. The former soldier then lets out a scream of pure rage for losing his golden opportunity. The scene then changes to the next day, with the sun shining brightly in the sky. Our hero is sitting in his room, impatiently swinging his legs. The digital clock on his desk reads exactly 10 in the morning. With a determined look, he thinks that his plan worked perfectly. Without wasting any time, he gets back into the capsule to return to the game. Once again, the system scans his retina and verifies his identity to connect. He returns to the game and appears in the same alley in the city of Ard. In a great hurry, the player rushes back to the alchemist's shop. He needs to check something quickly because he remembers seeing a yellow light before he got disconnected. The system then shows that he has an unconfirmed ability in his inventory. He thought it was a legendary one, but is fine with it, as he's been very lucky lately. The ability is the heroic level Backstab, restricted to the assassin class. This is the signature ability of assassins, and the main reason they are feared. No matter the distance, this insane ability closes the gap between opponents in an instant. With a wicked smile, he's excited to have gotten this ability. He thinks that with more skills like this, he'll become the perfect player for any situation. While 2 players chat in the background, the protagonist seems to have a headache. One of the players turns around and is confused by our hero's strange behavior. From a distance, they watch the former soldier in the middle of the courtyard, holding his head, not understanding a thing. With a wicked smile and a red aura, he seems to be overcome with excitement. The 2 players get spooked, and one of them comments that our hero looks like a complete psycho. Frightened, they decide to run away from there to avoid any trouble. The former soldier just watches them, not understanding they're over the top reaction at all. He then ignores the situation and decides it's time to equip the new items he got. With that, he equips the full Goblin Warrior set and the Alchemist's silver ring. Now with his new look, he feels ready to go to the main continent. The system informs him that he will be moved to Raven and can no longer return to Ard. As the teleportation begins, he remembers that he didn't even say goodbye to his companions. In a flashback, he recalls the moments with the group and admits he was getting attached. In the end, he just accepts his fate and says they'll meet again if it's meant to be. He then arrives in a huge city, and the system says that all players come here. It's explained that unlike Ard, the main continent is not divided by countries. This new starting point for all players is the famous first city, Raven. Suddenly, a group of mounted knights appears and asks for everyone to clear a path. They are escorting a tied-up prisoner who is struggling and shouting for freedom. With their arrival, the system announces that new features like the arena and duels have been unlocked. The game also congratulates him and wishes him a great adventure on the new continent. A system tip advises him not to hesitate to call the guards if he becomes a victim of a crime. Just then, a bar owner calls out to him and offers a special beer, complimenting his red outfit. Other vendors also approach him, offering food and even some freebies. The young man is impressed with the city and understands why players prefer to wander around rather than hunt. But he pulls himself together and tells himself he can do those things later. With his sword on his shoulder, he wonders where he should go to hunt first. The scene cuts to a blue monster being sliced by a brutal and precise strike. Now, on the plains of Raven, he's already fighting several goblins with his new sword. The system informs him that his warrior set gives a damage bonus against goblins. With the effect's red aura activated, the creatures become afraid and lose their morale. He then uses his bouncing cut ability to attack several enemies at once. The strike hits both monsters dead on, and the system confirms they have been defeated. He slides across the grass with speed, preparing for his next attack. With his red aura and glowing eyes, he stares at the bodies of the defeated enemies. The system informs him that his sword's power is increasing, and he feels intoxicated by the set. He celebrates the high stats, the additional damage, and the weapon that gets stronger with every hunt. With a cute smile, he feels happy that he can destroy the weaker monsters with ease. The former soldier then opens his quest screen and realizes he's doing very well, but suddenly, his eyes glow gold as he senses a strange presence nearby. In the forest, he sees a purple figure in the shape of a person sneaking up on him. The mysterious enemy sees his warrior set and identifies him as a rich and delicious-looking newbie. The figure then creates a purple energy dagger, preparing for a surprise attack. With a wicked smile, the man says he's going to enjoy this meal and lunges forward to attack. Without the protagonist noticing, he's hit by a quick and precise strike. The attacker is shocked to see that his blow dealt no damage to the target. Our hero then turns around with a red aura and a confused look on his face. The enemy retreats in fear and throws several daggers at the former soldier. Desperately, he yells for his companions to help him take down the newbie. An archer then appears and fires 2 blue energy arrows at him, but the protagonist deflects the attacks with his sword without any difficulty. Next, a man with an axe rushes towards him, yelling in anger. With a single move, he blocks the axe's strike with his giant sword. The former soldier then pushes the enemy back and prepares for a counter-attack. He spins his sword and holds it in a reverse grip for a different kind of strike. With a precise attack, he hits the man dead on, sending him flying. The other 2 members of the group are left with their mouths wide open at what they just saw. The enemy doesn't understand how a newbie can be so strong, and the system creates a mark. Suddenly, the protagonist appears behind his opponent using his new ability. Lying on the ground, the man stares up at the former soldier, who looks down at him with a dark aura. With a wicked smile, he asks the player if he happens to be lost. The scene explains that there are always people who don't listen, and in games, it's no different. And this situation isn't an official PvP match, but rather an indiscriminate takedown of other players. These are the player hunters who take people out for fun or for items, and they existed in the old game too. There are many reasons for this, but the worst type of all are the most feared among players. They are known as the terrible newbie hunters. Basically, they take out and rob beginners who have just left the first city, just like these guys, who were trying to do the same to our hero. With a wicked smile, the former soldier repeats his question to the player on the ground. The abilities mark then disappears, and the enemy is in shock as he realizes it was a backstab. He doesn't understand how a swordsman used the skill, but he has no time to think as the sword is already coming. With a single swing, the protagonist's blade ends his opponent's run. The system confirms that he has defeated the 3 players, and their bodies fall lifelessly to the ground. Since they were villains, their defeat was considered self-defense and did not increase his karma. The young man thinks that art was special because of the benefits that protected newbies from things like this. In a flashback, he remembers how kind and friendly his former companions were, but he knows the reality of the game is filled with these kinds of villains as their bodies disappear. He then decides to forget about it for now and goes to collect the rewards for his quests. With that, he completes 2 tasks and gains a lot of experience, silver, and a beast fang necklace. He levels up to 17, and the west gate is unlocked, allowing him to finally pass through. The forest west of Raven is a dark and dangerous place known to all players. It's a hunting ground so dangerous that even the city's NPCs warn people not to go there. Unlike the eastern plains, the view here is suffocating due to the dense forest. Because of this, players need to move very carefully to avoid being caught by surprise. On top of that, the place is infested with goblins and giant insects with red eyes. Surprise attacks are constant, coming from all sides without a chance to defend. For all these reasons, the difficulty of the West Forest is frighteningly high. This has led to an unwritten rule among players who venture into this dangerous place. In front of Raven's West Gate, the area is crowded with players looking for groups. Everyone is desperately shouting, looking for members to complete their hunting parties. One group complains that they only need a healer, but can't find one. The group leader explains that healers are rare because they aren't fun to play. Suddenly, one of them points to our hero, who is heading to the gate alone. The group thinks he's crazy for going alone, but our hero just ignores them. With a confident smile, he turns and walks into the dangerous forest. Inside, the atmosphere is dark and heavy, with twisted trees and a sinister fog. Suddenly, a red goblin leaps from a tree, but is defeated with a single, precise strike. The former soldier continues his relentless hunt, taking down several monsters with his sword. Another creature tries to attack from above, but the protagonist is already prepared for the blow. He slams his sword into the ground with force, creating a small burst of energy. Then, the young man uses the weapon as a support to leap towards the enemy coming from above. With a powerful kick in mid-air, he hits the monster dead on, knocking it to the ground. The creature hits the ground hard and can't get up after the blow. The goblin screams in pain on the ground as our hero's sword glows red. Next, he throws a shining object towards another enemy with great speed. The player realizes it's 3 daggers coming at him for a surprise attack. With an agile move, he manages to dodge the projectiles and continue his offense. One of the monsters takes advantage of the distraction to try and attack with its sharp sword. With his eyes glowing red, he prepares to counter-attack without hesitation. The former soldier then throws his own sword, which spins through the air like a boomerang. The weapon hits the monster dead on, slicing it in half with a single, precise blow. The sword continues on its path, cutting through everything in its way with devastating force. Suddenly, the warrior set's effect deactivates, and he is surrounded by enemies. The remaining goblins get excited by the opportunity and charge into attack all at once. But he says he doesn't need the full set and picks up an axe from the ground. His traits remove the restrictions and allow him to use the backstab ability. The monster is shocked to see the protagonist suddenly appear in front of it. Using the downward strike skill, he hits the creature's head with the axe. Even surrounded by the horde of monsters, the former soldier shows no fear. He then swings the axe in a circular motion, hitting several enemies at the same time. Another goblin screams in pain as it's hit squarely by the axe's brutal blow. The young man comments that the axe has a good weight to it and seems to like the new weapon. With that, he defeats 2 more enemies, and his axe mastery levels up. The impact of his powerful attack makes the ground shake violently. He then checks his quests and sees he's finished the one for the goblins and now only has the pendant quest left. But suddenly, the former soldier senses something strange approaching and looks to the side. Just then, a giant centipede with red eyes bursts out of the ground to attack him. The enormous creature spits a purple goo from its mouth as it glares at the player with hatred. With a stern look, the young man realizes the situation has gotten much more complicated. Startled by all the commotion, several birds fly away from the forest. To dodge the surprise attack, he leaps into the air with a quick and agile move. He then runs across the ground as the giant monster chases him without stopping for a second. Desperate, the former soldier lets out a shout as he tries to escape the furious creature. The player turns and readies his sword to finally face the insect head-on. His eyes glow red, showing his great determination for the battle. The giant monster then roars in fury, preparing to attack with all its might. With a spinning slash, he launches a devastating attack toward the creature. The attack hits the insect's head squarely, and it sprays a green liquid on impact. The centipede's body explodes from the force of the blow, and the young man moves away from the spot. He gets into a combat stance with a spear, preparing for what's next. The creature on the ground screams in pain and thrashes in anger from the attack it suffered. Our hero is surprised by the monster's resilience and watches it more carefully. The centipede then swings its body to try and hit him with a swift attack. He manages to block the blow with his sword, but the impact creates a shower of sparks. The young man grunts in pain, as the creature's strength is much greater than he expected. With disgust, he creates blue energy in his hand and says the monster is really gross. He then uses a strange item to throw the green liquid back at the creature. The attack hits the monster right in the face, leaving it stunned by the blow. His eyes glow again as he readies his sword for the final attack. With a quick and precise movement, he unleashes a powerful strike on the centipede. The protagonist then plunges his sword into the monster's body to finish it off. With that, he defeats the creature, levels up, and his sword mastery increases. He opens his status screen and sees that he went up 2 levels and is now at 19. He thinks that leveling up is hard, but he's doing well and has already completed most of the quests. What's left now is the task for the girl Camilla's lost pendant. The young man thinks that this one won't be particularly hard to complete. Since he already knows the location, he just needs to go to the spot to get the item. When he gets there, he finds several players in a line, and one of them asks people not to cut. Other players start arguing in line, and our hero just watches the commotion. He then realizes that must be the tree where the quest pendant responds. With a sigh of relief, he thinks it's a good thing the line isn't too long. Suddenly, he overhears 2 players talking about an execution order for some troublemakers. One of them comments that the assassin got what he deserved, and that it served him right for being so arrogant. His friend then asks if that was the guy who was calling himself Kaiser. Our hero is shocked and wonders why his name is coming up in their conversation. The blonde player dismisses the idea, saying it was just a fan, and that a swordsman would never use backstab. His friend laughs, and the former soldier realizes he's going to need to be more discreet for a while. He knows the guilds wouldn't stay quiet about a swordsman who uses assassin skills and has 6 traits. Some would try to recruit him, but many others would try to eliminate him as quickly as possible, especially the members of the top guilds who came from Temrock and destroy what they can't have. When it's his turn, he finally grabs the pendant, and the system confirms he's obtained the item. Holding the necklace, he thinks that it's still too early to reveal his true identity. Back in Raven, he finds Camilla, who is overjoyed to see her pendant. The girl thanks him profusely, and with that, the quest is completed, and he receives the rewards. He levels up to 20 and gets a skill ticket and a special gift from Camilla. With a smile, he gently pats the girl's head and tells her not to lose the item again. She is delighted and the young man's title increases the affinity between them even more. The girl says goodbye, and he thinks that the affinity rose quickly because she is so young. He then opens his quest screen to see what his next challenge in the city will be. The next task is of rare rank and asks him to clear a dungeon with a ticket as a reward. If it's a dungeon near the west gate, the two main ones are the Goblin's Den and the Ant's Nest. Considering his warrior set, he thinks the best option would be the Goblin one. But he knows that both dungeons require a group, and he doesn't want to reveal his abilities. At the entrance to the Goblin Chief's lair, a crowd of players is gathered, looking for groups. One of the players is desperately shouting, looking for a fire mage level 20 or higher. Others take the opportunity to offer services like buying items and repairing weapons. Our hero observes the activity and notices that even the crafting players are around. Nearby, a player rejects a rogue for his group, saying they don't accept that class. The rogue insists, but the group leader dismisses him, saying they're better off without him on the team. Suddenly, a group surrounds a mage and invites her to join them in the dungeon. He notices that the groups are only looking for mages to complete their parties. This happens because, depending on the boss's traits, the class hierarchy changes, and here, mages are gods. The problem is that, unfortunately for him, swordsmen are completely useless in this dungeon. At that moment, a voice calls out to him and asks if he's the one wearing the warrior set. A blonde player invites him to his group, and the former soldier asks if he knows he's a swordsman. The blonde player confirms and says he doesn't care, because they're only doing this for a quest. The young man feels that something is off about the situation but wonders if he should play along. With a smile, he accepts the invitation, and the new group's leader says he'll send the invite. The system then confirms the group formation and shows that the other members are level 24. With a serious expression, the former soldier starts to get suspicious of his new companions. With a red and dark aura, he then realizes that those players know exactly who he is. His new companions watch him from a distance, and one of them asks if that's Kaiser with the warrior set. The leader confirms, saying there wouldn't be another player like him in that area of the dungeon. With a wicked grin, one of the group members comments that it's a rare sight. That's why the group leader approached and called out to the guy wearing the warrior set. He invites him to his party, and our hero asks if the blonde guy knows he's a swordsman. The blonde guy says he knows but doesn't care, since they're only there for a quest. Our hero then accepts the invitation, and the group leader says he'll send the invite. With that, the party is formed, and the system shows that all the other members are at level 24. The group then enters the dungeon, the Goblin Chief's lair, a very gloomy place. Inside, they defeat a goblin scout, and the system announces that its defeat has been reported to the chief. The leader and his friend smile confidently and comment that it was a piece of cake for them. The former soldier just watches, thinking that the group's power and synergy are very good. Suddenly, the system announces that the Goblin Chief has sent his soldiers, and the group is surprised. A horde of furious goblins then rushes toward the group, preparing to attack. The blonde guy then turns to the protagonist and asks if he wants to handle the monsters alone. The mage also encourages him, saying it's a chance to build some teamwork, and that they'll help if he needs it. The former soldier realizes their intention and wonders if the group is trying to test his skills. With a slight smile, he decides to play along and walks to the front of the formation. He then activates the charging skill, creating a small explosion of energy on the ground. With a single spinning strike, he charges forward and slashes through several goblins at once with no difficulty. Seeing this, the two players smile and confirm they've found the right person for the job. The leader asks for his friend's opinion, who replies that the guy is not half bad. He adds that the guy is fast with his sword and is great at dodging their vital strikes. The blonde guy becomes thoughtful and says that even with the gear, something about the situation seems off. He then questions how an assassin was defeated by someone who just relies on his items. He admits the damage and speed are good, but an assassin is one of the best classes for PvP in the game. And even with poison and stealth, he still lost in a 3-on-1 fight. The mage then interrupts the conversation, saying they just need to get rid of the protagonist. The leader agrees and says to get it over with, because after this job, they're done. With a smile, his companion agrees and asks if they should go after the guy now. The blonde guy then tells his friends to play it cool and act like nothing's happening. Meanwhile, the former soldier continues to fight, defeating another goblin with his sword. The group leader approaches with a smile and compliments the guy, saying he's very good. With a fake smile, our hero replies that everyone there seems to be very skilled. The paladin asks how the blonde guy managed to recruit someone so good, and he brags about his talent. But the protagonist thinks they have a lot of nerve for letting him fight alone. The blonde guy then says they invited him as a precaution, but he seems to be able to handle everything by himself. He realizes the group might ditch him and take his items if he gets defeated. Suddenly, a goblin attacks the paladin, who blocks the blow with his shield and is surprised. The player then wonders if the former soldier is just getting lucky in the fights. The blonde guy yells at the mage to aim properly, but she says the goblin suddenly moved. Our hero realizes they can't even hit him when his back is turned. With an angry look, the group leader takes out one of the monsters to play it off. The blonde guy thinks about taking him down when he gets the chance, but the protagonist knows it won't be easy. After a short break, the whole party decides it's time to keep pushing deeper into the dungeon. The guy then braces himself for another round of fights against the cave monsters. Just then, a giant goblin leaps out to attack, and the group prepares for the fight. The three players then get into their combat stances to face the enormous monster. The system informs them that the red goblin elite soldiers are trying to stop them. With that, the boss gate is revealed, and the system says the goblin leader has detected them. The group leader then asks the protagonist to handle the elite soldiers for now, but when he turns to give the order, he realizes the guy has simply vanished. The blonde guy gets furious and shouts, asking where he went in the middle of the battle. His companions realize he figured out their plan, and the mage points forward, scared. The leader then looks ahead, not understanding what's happening. He's forced to fight one of the elite soldiers that attacks him with its sword. The paladin is also struggling and cries out in pain as he blocks the other monster's attack. The blonde guy then yells for his companions to help him take down the creature. The mage fearfully agrees and prepares to use one of her fire spells. Suddenly, a giant meteor is summoned and starts falling from the cave ceiling. The sorceress looks up, startled by the giant meteor that was suddenly summoned. She tries to run to escape the impact, but the giant rock is already plummeting down. Lying on the ground, she's in shock and can't believe what's happening. Suddenly, a giant foot slams into the ground with force, revealing the dungeon boss. The goblin chief is a rare monster with traits of cowardice, selfish defense, and vengeance. The paladin, who was busy fighting, is surprised by the boss's sudden appearance. At that moment, our hero walks slowly toward the group with a serious look. The mage gets up, furious, and yells at the guy, not understanding what he's doing. He just ignores her and keeps walking toward them. While asking about the assassin, with a wicked smile and red eyes, he asks if they are friends with that assassin. The sorceress tries to negotiate, telling them to team up and clear the dungeon first. The former soldier seems to consider her proposal and says her point is quite reasonable. The girl is relieved, but her expression changes to shock as she notices something strange. Without hesitation, the protagonist strikes the mage with a quick and precise blow from behind. With a sinister smile and eyes glowing red, he simply says he refuses to help. The system confirms the player's defeat and identifies her as a villain, so his karma doesn't increase. He thinks that he suspected they were villains from the start of this whole mess. That's why he used a skill to hide first and observe the situation from afar. He had a hunch the skill would work, and is surprised it even works on a body. The leader yells at him, asking if he's gone crazy for taking out the party's mage. With a mocking smile, the guy just asks if the blonde knows his life motto. The leader gets even more confused and yells back, not understanding a thing he's saying. The former soldier then explains that he never sides with the kind of people who try to stab him in the back. He says teaming up with people like that only leads to a rotten end, and shows a shining dagger. The blonde guy is shocked to recognize the weapon and asks how he got the assassin's dagger. Our hero then asks if he recognizes it because it belonged to his friend, and gives a smile. The leader doesn't understand how a swordsman can use that weapon and asks what he's going to do. He says that if the guy takes them down, he'll never be able to finish the dungeon alone. The blonde guy explains that the goblin chief's trait blocks all physical attacks from players. That's why mages are essential in that dungeon, and he couldn't do anything with just a dagger. The protagonist reveals that he's going to use status effects, and the blonde guy is completely confused. With a smile, our hero then asks if the guy knows what counts as a status effect. The group leader calls him crazy for trying to use bleed against the dungeon boss, but with a wicked smile, the former soldier says he would agree if it were a normal bleed effect. Hearing that, the blonde guy is even more shocked and can't make sense of the situation. Without wasting time, our hero charges forward at his opponent with the dagger. He swiftly dodges the two players' attacks and prepares his counterattack. Suddenly, the blonde guy is hit by the strike, and the system announces the dagger's effect has been activated. The bleed effect is activated, and the damage increases greatly due to the huge difference in stats. The player doesn't understand how their stats can be so different since he's at a higher level. Even at level 24, he wonders what the difference is to make the skill so strong. The former soldier explains that he wouldn't understand and talks about the skill he got at level 20. The bleed skill he has is rare and can stack, which surprised him too. Normally in the game, status effects of the same class don't stack on enemies. But since he's using a rogue skill with an assassin's weapon, the effect becomes different. Lying on the ground, the blonde guy says it's a hack and can't believe the skill's power. With his last bit of strength, he accuses the protagonist of being a hacker before falling in defeat. With that, the system confirms the villain's defeat, and his karma doesn't increase with this victory. The guy just sighs and complains that all villains say the same thing. Suddenly, the paladin shouts his leader's name in desperation, getting the hero's attention. The paladin panics as he realizes he's the next to be taken down. Seeing his friends on the ground, he wonders how things got to this point. He then realizes his mistake was messing with the protagonist from the very beginning. With desperation in his eyes, the player decides his only chance is to escape from there as fast as possible. But the former soldier is faster and moves in with his dagger to finish off the last enemy. The bleed is activated, and the huge difference in stats increases the strike's damage even more. With his HP below 10%, the paladin has no strength left to keep fighting. He then falls to the ground, completely defeated by the guy's overwhelming attack. The system confirms the villain's defeat, and our hero is left alone in the cave with the fallen players. With the dagger in hand, he comments that the damage isn't bad at all and thinks about his stats. He brings up his status screen and says he invested 15 points into strength to get stronger. Suddenly, the goblin chief lets out a furious roar and glares at him from a distance with hatred. One of the elite soldiers the paladin was fighting is now down on the ground. The system announces that the chief is furious about the defeat of his underlings and is about to attack. The guy turns in surprise, seeming to have forgotten about the giant monster for a moment. He then remembers the boss is still there and watches it running in his direction. With his eyes glowing red and a smile, he wonders if they're going to have some fun now. The giant monster then leaps into the air with fury, preparing to crush the player. But the protagonist stomps firmly on the ground and prepares to counterattack with everything he's got. He jumps and lands a powerful kick right in the giant creature's face without hesitation. The goblin chief screams in pain from the impact of the blow, and its face is bleeding a little. Our hero then uses the monster as a foothold and prepares for his next move. The creature is thrown back by the force of the kick and crashes onto the cave floor. With a determined look, the former soldier analyzes the situation to plan his next attack. His eyes glow gold as he activates his Eye of Truth skill again. The system then reports that the goblin chief's selfish defense trait has been activated. The guy creates a blue energy blade and prepares for a powerful and precise attack. With a spinning motion, he unleashes a devastating blow on the giant monster's body. The bleed effect is activated, and the boss's health drops to 40 and then 30%. The creature cries out in pain and stumbles backward from the continuous damage of the status effect. With a red aura, the guy approaches the monster, which stares at him in fear. He then says it's time to end this and readies the dagger for the final blow. The giant creature cries out in fear and pain as it tries to get away from the player. The goblin chief then turns and tries to flee to the back of the cave in desperation. At that moment, the system activates the protagonist backstab skill. The monster looks back in a panic when it sees its enemy is no longer there. With a blue aura, the former soldier suddenly appears right behind the creature. With a wicked smile, he asks where the monster thinks it's going. The goblin chief is frozen in fear and can no longer move from its spot. Our hero slowly approaches, a red aura surrounding his body. He raises the dagger and says it's time to finally end this battle. Desperate, the giant monster screams in fear as it sees the blade approaching. The chief turns and tries to run one more time, but it's too late to escape. With the backstab skill, the system once again teleports the player nearby. The creature looks back and sees the protagonist suddenly appear again. The former soldier appears right in front of the monster with a blue aura and a cold look. With a smile, he asks again where the giant goblin was trying to go. The creature lets out one last scream of pure terror as it's caught by surprise. With a single, precise strike, our hero's dagger slices through the air with speed. The system confirms the boss has been defeated, and the dungeon is finally cleared. He looks at the leather belt he got and says he was in need of one. The item is rare, and equipping it increases his strength and stamina a little more. The guy thinks that not every dungeon has a time limit to complete. He's a little bummed about it, but knows there's nothing he can do. But he remembers he still has more rewards to collect around the cave. The system announces that he has acquired an item left by a player, the Iron Shield. He picks up the rare shield and thinks the item must have cost a lot of money. Another item he gets is the rare, plus grade training sword. The former soldier is surprised by the strange name of the sword he just picked up. He then realizes the group leader was a very dedicated role player. He then decides he's going to sell all the items he got from the players. Suddenly, his eyes glow gold, and his special ability is activated. Looking to the side, he sees a strange red light in the back of the cave. The light is too strong to be an item, and he wonders if it's a rare herb. The system then informs him that he has discovered a secret goblin shaman dungeon. For being the first to find it, he earns the title of competent explorer. The guy is shocked by the discovery, and the screen explains the different types of dungeons. They're a party unique boss, labyrinth, and also event dungeons. But the rarest and least known type of all are the hidden dungeons. They are hard to find and require special conditions to enter. The system confirms that he met the brutal rules to unlock the entrance. To discover the dungeon, he needed to be alone in a place meant for groups. With a smile, he thinks that with those conditions, it would be almost impossible to find it. The screen shows that the dungeon is hero, grade, and will disappear if he fails. Even with the difficulty, he says he's definitely going to be able to finish the challenge. A famous player says that entering them is like putting your head in a beast's mouth. The scene shows a crocodile in the water and explains that everyone agrees with that phrase. Without warning, the beast attacks, and the text says the animal's mouth simply snaps shut. The hidden dungeon is exactly like that beast's mouth, waiting for its prey. The crocodile then hides in the water and waits for the next victim to appear. With that, the system confirms his entry, and he walks into the portal. The former soldier is sucked into a black portal at high speed. Upon entering, he is hit by a cursed orb and gets the dark vision effect. This effect would reduce his field of vision for a while, but something happens. His hero's trait resists the mental corruption and nullifies the skill's effect. With a golden aura, He comments that the dungeon's reception was quite fierce. A mysterious voice then asks how he dares to enter its home without permission. Suddenly, the guy finds himself surrounded by several undead monsters and spiders. The shaman's horde of undead goblins prepares to attack without hesitation. Besides the goblins, giant spiders also emerge to defend the place. With a disgusted expression, he complains that those undead creatures are gross. The shaman on the throne then scoffs and says the guy seems to be afraid of his children. The former soldier is surprised because even for a difficult dungeon, he didn't expect a named boss. With a calm look, he then compliments the monster's insight for a simple goblin. The shaman notices the intruder isn't tense and says he will teach him what true fear is. But suddenly, the protagonist appears next to the boss, who is shocked by his speed. The boss wonders how a simple human managed to find his secret hideout. With a smile, the guy remembers that dragon rewards are good and gets excited. The villain realizes the guy doesn't have an explorer's aura and that he's a very peculiar being. With a blue aura, he thinks that long-range fighters need to be careful up close. The system shows that the boss is Jihad Black, a hero, grade-named goblin. Suddenly, a giant undead monster lets out a furious roar in his direction. The shaman says that even if he is peculiar, there's no way he can escape his lair now. The system announces that body control has been activated, and the villain's speed increases. With this, the goblin uses the corpse explosion skill, creating a large blast of energy. The creature then charges forward with its purple aura, preparing for a fast and direct attack. With a look of pure rage, he stares down the protagonist, who watches everything attentively. The shaman then turns and looks behind him, as if searching for something. He is shocked to see that the guy hasn't moved and is staring at him with a red aura. With a wicked smile and red eyes, the former soldier readies his dagger to attack. The system confirms that the bleed has been activated, and the villain is shocked by the pain. With a smile, he asks if the goblin is surprised, and says he should have been the one who was tense. The shaman gets furious and calls the guy a rat, while summoning more dark spirits. He then launches several purple energy projectiles at the player to attack him. The former soldier jumps with agility and manages to dodge all the attacks with no problem. But the villain doesn't give up and continues to launch more energy blasts at him. With that, a shower of purple energy attacks flies through the cave at high speed. With his red eyes glowing, he says he can see where the goblin is aiming. He can also see what the shaman plans to do with his next moves. With that, the guy stands still amidst the defeated bodies, waiting for the right moment. The shaman smiles wickedly and says with conviction that this is the end for the intruder. The system reports that the boss is using a grand art of corpse explosion. Our hero then jumps with agility to dodge the creature's devastating attack. The goblin continues to channel its magic with a purple aura and a confident look. With that, a shower of purple energy attacks flies through the cave at high speed. With his red eyes glowing, he says he can see where the goblin is aiming. He can also see what the shaman plans to do with his next moves. With that, the guy stands still amidst the defeated bodies, waiting for the right moment. The villain smiles wickedly again and shouts that the battle is finally over. The system explains that the boss used the art of body substitution to protect himself. The villain says he was going to be gentle, but since the guy annoyed him, he's going to end it all. But suddenly, the protagonist appears behind the goblin, who is in shock from the surprise. With a mocking smile, the former soldier asks if the monster's skill failed. Without wasting time, he then lands a powerful punch right in the creature's face. The villain screams in pain from the impact of the blow, and is thrown backward by the force. With a hand on its face, the goblin glares at the guy with a mix of anger and surprise. Lying on the ground, the shaman looks up to see the protagonist staring down at him in silence. With a dark red aura, the guy slowly approaches his opponent. The villain curses him and swears he will definitely get his revenge one day. But the former soldier interrupts him with another strong punch right in the middle of the monster's face. He then continues to punch the goblin nonstop with a sequence of rapid blows. Desperate, the shaman tries to ask him to stop, but the guy doesn't listen to his plea. Suddenly, he stops and looks at his hand covered in a green liquid, with confusion. The goblin complains that the guy hit his bones and says that's playing dirty. Our hero wonders what kind of boss complains about its bones hurting. He can't believe a hero grade monster is acting that way. The guy thinks the explosion is strong, but even so, the boss seems too weak. The villain cowers on the ground in fear, and the former soldier just watches him in silence. Suddenly, the shaman creates an energy blade and attacks the protagonist by surprise. But the attack doesn't work, and our hero just stares at him, not understanding the situation. The shaman scoffs and says he was just waiting for the guy to lower his guard. With a sinister smile, the villain activates his special ability in the darkness. The system informs that the monster's stats will greatly increase with the ability. He thinks that no matter the appearance, the story changes when you go up in rank. With his sword in hand, he knows he can't let the goblin get stronger. Without wasting time, the player unleashes a powerful blow at his opponent. The system announces that his strength has increased by 20, passing 100 points. His warrior set is activated, and he gains an extra 7% damage. The Fury effect is activated, and he gains another 10% damage against the boss. His sword proficiency also increases his damage by another 10%. With a determined look, he says everything becomes equal in the face of overwhelming damage. With a precise blow, his red blade cuts through the enemy's dark energy. The villain vanishes into smoke, and the system confirms the defeat of the dungeon boss. His eyes glow red as he receives confirmation of his victory. For being the first to clear it, the rewards are boosted, and he levels up. The first reward is a hero, Great Goblin Shaman's Vengeful Spirit Orb. He also gets a hero, Level Goblin Shaman's Robe with no class restriction. With a satisfied smile, he's impressed with the hero level rewards. The guy analyzes the item and thinks the options are strange but useful. He then sees an item called Trace of a Forgotten Clan and gets curious. He becomes thoughtful, as the grade is unknown, and remembers items from Demrock. He decides to put that aside for now and notices a new system notification. The screen shows an unidentified card, and he wonders what it is. It's explained that the game takes cards seriously for skills and enchantments. With a smile, he thinks that if it's a monster card, it must be for enchanting. The card is of Jihad Black himself and can summon him as a guardian. It's explained that a guardian is a being that protects the user in battle. The guy scratches his head, looking a little disappointed with the reward. He remembers that unless it's a divine beast like Yongyi Wang or Hozik, he thinks that normal guardians are useless and just a waste of money. With a flash of energy, his new guardian is summoned and looks like a small child. The system shows that it's a named, hero grade being, but its traits are very strange. The little goblin then recognizes him and asks in shock why he's there. With a look of disgust, he can't believe that thing is his new guardian. He imagined a cool guardian like a Pegasus, but reality was very different. The goblin complains on the ground about becoming the servant of a filthy, useless human. He reads the traits again and doesn't understand what kind of useless ability that is. The system warns that because of its traits and low loyalty, he could be betrayed. With an angry look, he realizes the situation with the guardian is crazy. Seeing the creature's sassy attitude, he decides he can't let the situation go on like this. With that, he stomps on the ground and slowly approaches his new companion. Scared, the little goblin asks what the human wants to do with him now. The guy gets irritated and asks how the servant dares to call his master a human. With red eyes and a lot of anger, he yells at the goblin because of the insult. The creature is completely terrified by its new master's furious reaction. With a wicked smile, he says he's going to correct the goblin with 1 hit per second. The creature is confused and wonders what the guy means by that threat. With an even more wicked smile, he says it's time for a good beating. The small creature panics as it realizes what its master is going to do to it. With that, cries of pain echo through the cave, and the system alerts him of his action. To his surprise, with every hit he lands, the goblin's loyalty rises a little. The scene then shifts to the real world, with the sun setting over the city's horizon. With a flash of light, the guy wakes up and gets out of his immersion capsule in his room. He then stretches and complains It's already nighttime outside again. He goes to the living room and asks his sister if there's anything to eat at home. The girl replies that there's nothing, and that he didn't leave anything for her earlier. With a bored look, he wonders what kind of sight this is in front of him. He sits on the couch and asks the girl where their mom is right now. His sister then says she went out, and the guy is surprised that she also plays GOS. She replies that everyone plays the game lately, and that he's not special. She reveals she's at level 71, and he's shocked by the information. Our hero wonders if she plays a lot, and his sister confirms that she does. She says she started playing 6 months ago, and that it's pretty fun with friends. The guy gets thoughtful and wonders if it takes that long to reach level 70. The girl replies that she doesn't play for 10 hours a day, like certain people she knows. The former soldier just stares at her in silence, not knowing what to say back. Just then, the TV shows a news report about the Hero Guild, and she says she knows them. He asks what the Hero Guild is, and she's surprised by his ignorance. She explains it's the most popular group, and that their fame is comparable to Milesall. The guy doesn't get it, since they aren't even among the top 10 in the game. She then reveals the reason is that the guild master is very handsome. The girl says that even with Milesall, most girls prefer the Hero Guild. The protagonist thinks the guild master looks too much like a pretty boy. His sister praises him, saying he's the perfect combination of handsome and cute. Annoyed, the guy mutters that she sounds like a pelican talking like that. He gets up and says he's going to train a bit, and the girl makes fun of his face. He turns around and asks her what NewTube is with a curious look. She explains that all the big groups make videos and even get 100 million views. Our hero is completely shocked by what he just heard from his sister. He asks if the guild master makes a lot of money from the videos. With a dreamy look, he thinks about how much fried chicken he could buy. He keeps repeating "own billion" over and over, and his sister asks what's gotten into him. With a zombie-like stare, he walks to his room, still thinking about the money. Without another word, the guy goes into his room and slams the door. The girl is left completely confused, wondering why he's being so weird. Back in the game, the system connects him to the virtual world of GOS again. In the forest, he decides to record a little, thinking it might be useful in the future. Suddenly, his new guardian appears from a portal and calls him master. The former soldier gets annoyed because the goblin isn't using honorifics. Scared, the creature apologizes, but our hero says it's fine. He then tosses the robe he got for the little goblin to wear. The guy says it needs to get dressed, and the system announces that its loyalty has dropped. With a wicked smile, the goblin says that now that it has clothes, it's free. Hearing that, the protagonist gets furious at his servant's audacity. Seeing his reaction, the goblin thanks him, and its loyalty goes up again. With a sigh, he wonders what kind of loyalty goes up and down like that. The little goblin then asks where they're going now that it's dressed. With a sly smile, the guy replies that they need to get out of there. The creature is completely confused by its new master's strange answer. Suddenly, a giant insect appears and lets out a terrifying shriek in the forest. The scene shows they've already defeated several monsters, and the system confirms it. The little guardian just looks at the fallen creatures and feels sorry for them. With its sword on its shoulder, it says they were unlucky enough to cross paths with a demon. The goblin then calls out to him, and the guy turns to see what it wants now. The small creature walks slowly toward its master in the forest. The former soldier tells it to grab the items and try to create an undead. The goblin then approaches one of the fallen creatures to use its ability. It kneels beside a red goblin lying on the forest floor. With a purple aura, the little shaman begins to recite an ancient spell. With that, the goblin's body rises and becomes an undead with purple eyes. The guy is surprised, and the system confirms the goblin has become an undead. The little shaman says it would normally create a legion, but its level is low. The guy is impressed and thinks the goblin's ability will be very useful. The guardian then shouts at its new servants with a powerful purple aura. Suddenly, the horde of undead goblins starts running into the forest. The protagonist is completely confused and wonders where they're going. The little shaman explains they had sent them to fetch the items that dropped on the ground. With an angry face, he complains that his servant is already delegating tasks. The guy sits on a log and wonders when he'll reach level 2. The goblin hears his complaint and says it knows where the elite monsters are. Our hero is completely shocked by his servant's unexpected revelation. The little guardian explains that they don't do anything and just gather in one place. With a wicked smile, the former soldier gets excited about the news of the monsters. The guy sits on a log and wonders when he'll reach level 2. The goblin hears his complaint and says it knows where the elite monsters are. Our hero is completely shocked by his servant's unexpected revelation. The little guardian explains that they don't do anything and just gather in one place. With a wicked smile, the former soldier gets excited about the news of the monsters. The scene then shifts to a forest with a blue sky and white clouds. In the forest, a group of goblins is gathered around a campfire. Hiding in the bushes, the goblin proudly shows the group to its master. With a wicked smile, he thinks the situation is insane and really good. Suddenly, a surprise quest, Trial of the Warriors, is generated by the system. With a wicked smile, he says he's definitely going to clear that quest. One of the goblins notices something strange and turns with a surprised look. He then charges forward with speed and uses a skill to close the distance. With a smile and red eyes, the former soldier greets the monsters. The goblin then attacks with its sword, and a red aura surrounds its body. With a precise strike, the protagonist's blade hits the monster dead on. The creature is thrown back by the force of the impact and falls, defeated. With its eyes glowing red, the goblin screams in fury at the attack. He then lands a powerful kick right in the giant creature's face. The blow lands squarely, and the monster is completely stunned by the impact. The creature is thrown backward by the force and cries out in pain from the blow. With that, the guy readies his dagger, which now glows with a blue energy. The system announces that he used the skill and attacks several enemies at once. The bleed effect is activated, and the creature takes a lot of damage from it. In a combat stance, he prepares for the next round of attacks. Another monster charges with its sword, yelling in anger as it heads toward him, but the former soldier blocks the strike with his sword without any difficulty. The weapons clash, creating several sparks from the powerful impact. The goblin is shocked to see its attack was defended so easily. He then kicks the opponent, sending it to the ground with a precise blow. The creature cries out in pain as it falls, defeated after the counterattack. Without wasting time, he grabs his greatsword, preparing for the strike. He then leaps into the air for a powerful downward attack. The monster stares at its opponent in the air with pure terror in its eyes. With a determined look and red eyes, he prepares the final blow. With a single strike, the blade comes down with full force, ending the fight for good. The monster just stares at him in its final moments before it falls. With that, he defeats all the goblins, and the area is filled with fallen bodies. From a distance, his guardian watches the scene, completely shocked by his strength. It thinks that it felt this before, but that its master isn't human. The guy turns to his servant and looks at it with a wicked smile. His greatsword then stabs into the ground, marking the end of the battle. He says he's taken care of the warriors, and that the boss should appear now. Suddenly, a giant blue goblin chief appears with an ice axe. The quest is updated, and the system informs them of the new boss's name, Karuk. With a smile, he calls it a walking loot bag and gets excited. The guy then pulls his sword from the ground to begin the new battle. Without hesitation, he charges full speed toward the new giant boss. With a powerful leap, he moves in with his sword for an aerial attack. His guardian shouts in desperation because the boss is too strong for him right now. The monster uses a skill, and its axe glows with an intense blue energy. With his eyes glowing red, the guy faces his opponent with determination. The chief then yells in fury and prepares to attack with all its might. The ice axe hits the ground with a devastating and powerful impact. The creature is surprised to see that its attack missed the target. The little goblin is relieved to see its master manage to dodge. Our hero then blocks the attack with his greatsword without difficulty. With red eyes and a smile, he faces his opponent without fear. The giant goblin becomes even more enraged by the player's audacity. It then screams and attacks again with its ice axe with more force. The guy holds his sword with both hands to prepare for the blow. The weapons clash in a duel of strength, creating a huge explosion. With a spinning motion, he manages to dodge and attack at the same time. The little guardian's jaw drops at what it just witnessed. It can't believe its master used the parry skill. With a look of pure determination, the former soldier faces his opponent. The system explains that parry is a defensive skill that reflects attacks. It's a rare skill that can neutralize even legendary abilities. But because of its low success rate, almost no one uses it in the game. With a wicked smile, he thinks he was lucky to get this skill from the gacha. The boss then uses its ability again for a devastating attack. A large explosion of blue energy occurs, and the creature is left exhausted. With a look of pure rage, the guy prepares for the counterattack. The monster is surprised and doesn't understand how he's still standing. With a wicked smile, he realizes the boss's skill has run out. The giant goblin screams in frustration for having failed its attack. From a distance, the little guardian watches the scene with fear and admiration. With a final blow, the system confirms the defeat of the boss, Karuk. The system then announces that the quest has been completed, and he receives several rewards. With a wicked smile, the former soldier is shocked to see he got 2 tickets. Overjoyed, he starts jumping and dancing alone in the middle of the forest. Hiding, his guardian watches him and mutters that he's doing that thing again. It thinks that during a fight, its master looks like a demon with red eyes. But when it comes to gacha, he becomes a complete fool and acts strangely. Without wasting time, the guy decides to use his new skill tickets in the menu. With that, an intense blue light appears, and the skill draw begins. The first skill that appears is the rare, Great Ascending Dragon Kick. Right after the Power Strike buff skill is revealed, and he's in shock. This is the main skill for the buffer class, and greatly increases physical attack. With it, a simple one-handed sword can have the power of a greatsword. The player is very happy and thinks that now he can be a self-buffing DPS. With red eyes, he celebrates that he now has the kick he always wanted to use. Suddenly, a notification for an unidentified item pops up in front of him, surprising him. With that, Karuk's leather top and pants are revealed, both hero grade. He also gets the shoulder guards in a ring, and is happy to swap out his old set. Without hesitation, the guy presses the button to equip his new armor set. The system confirms he has equipped the warrior set, and shows the new bonuses. He turns and asks his servant if the new two-toned armor looks good. The little goblin stares at him, and says that sometimes its master really scares it. With a scary smile, the player replies that his servant scares him too. He then starts to brag, saying that even he is afraid of himself. Striking a cool pose, he admires himself, and the little goblin just watches the scene. The guardian then thinks its master is a complete nutcase, and makes a face. At that moment, the system announces that his servant's loyalty has decreased by 1 point. The guy asks if the goblin was bad, mouthing him, and the creature panics. With a furious look, he grabs his sword and threatens his servant with a red aura. Scared, the creature agrees, and the system announces that its loyalty has increased. Seeing that, the former soldier just sighs at his guardian's bizarre situation. The guy tells his servant that they're leaving, and starts walking through the forest. The small creature then asks where they are going now in such a hurry. With a serious look, the former soldier replies that it's time to hunt a new boss. The goblin says that since he defeated one warrior, he can very well take down others. Suddenly, the little guardian has a realization and remembers something very important. The system announces that he needs to defeat the Spider Queen to go to the next town. The scene changes to a forest full of webs with several players waiting for the monster. One of the players complains about the wait, and another says there are 10 minutes left until the boss. Other adventurers wonder where the monster will appear this time on the game map. One of them suggests that maybe the boss will appear in the west or north of the Great Forest. Just then, our hero and his servant arrive at the location filled with waiting players. He then asks his goblin if it knows where bosses usually appear in the area. The creature replies that it doesn't know, as that monster is from a different generation of GOS. With a sigh, the guy complains that his servant said it knew the whole forest. The little goblin looks embarrassed and doesn't know what to say to its furious master. Thoughtfully, the player wonders where the giant creature will appear now. He then decides he's going to use his ability to get there first, no matter what. Suddenly, The system announces that his Slayer passive has been activated and shows the location. The former soldier is shocked to see a red trail showing him the way. He doesn't understand because he doesn't have a Spider Slayer title in the online game. With wide eyes, he begins to understand what's happening at that moment. He wonders if the ability works on all bosses and not just the ones he's defeated. But he decides that doesn't really matter right now and focuses on the red trail in front of him. With a wicked smile, he thinks he's going to monopolize the boss and uses his teleport skill. Suddenly, a circle of light appears in the middle of the players, and one of them is startled by the light. The scene then shifts to a dark cave with a giant spider named Eliza. With his teleport, the guy and his servant appear in front of the boss, and the system alerts them. With a satisfied smile, he's surprised his plan actually worked out in the end. The goblin asks how he did that, and the guy says it's a long story. With red eyes, he says the most important thing is that now it's time to fight again. With the boss in front of him, the guy is impressed by how giant it actually is. The Spider Queen then lets out a terrifying shriek and prepares to attack the player. With a look of pure fury, the former soldier faces his opponent and prepares for combat. Without wasting time, the creature lunges at the guy with its claws. But our hero uses his teleport ability to easily dodge the attack. The creature is surprised to see its opponent suddenly disappear in front of it. With its eyes glowing red, it begins to search for him in the dark cave. Suddenly, a golden energy manifests, and a large dragon appears out of nowhere. The system announces he used the dragon kick, and that his damage was increased. The blow lands squarely, and the giant creature screams in pain from the kick's impact. With his eyes glowing gold, he prepares for his next attack. As he lands on the ground, he creates a purple shockwave with his new powers. With his glowing sword, he charges forward with speed for a sequence of blows. The spider is surprised by the speed and power of its opponent's attacks. With a series of slashes, he hits the monster's body several times without stopping. After the attack, he lands on the ground and prepares for the next round of the fight. Without giving the boss time to breathe, he rushes in for a new, more powerful attack. He then activates his buff, and the system announces his attack power has increased. With a fiery aura, the guy leaps into the air for an even more devastating blow. The system announces he is going to use the dragon kick once more against the boss. Again, the golden dragon appears and charges full speed toward the creature. With a precise blow, he lands the kick right in the giant monster's face. The spider then spits a green liquid and screams in pain from the impact of the blow. The attack is so powerful that it throws the monster backward with great force and stuns it. From a distance, his guardian watches the scene and pities the monster's bad luck in the fight. With the spider down on the ground, he approaches to finish the battle for good. Even though it's badly injured, the creature still manages to mutter its name with difficulty. With a red aura, he says he doesn't know who Eliza is and glares at it with hatred. With a wicked smile, he wonders if it will keep talking as it's defeated. The creature then screams its name one last time before its inevitable end in the fight. Hiding, the goblin watches the scene and shouts the spider's name along with it. It then mutters that its master is very cruel for doing that to the creature. Without pity, our hero continues to attack the spider, who screams in desperation. The little guardian suddenly wonders where it knows that name from. With wide eyes, it has an epiphany and shouts in surprise at the memory. Seeing that his master was about to end the fight, the servant shouts for him to stop immediately. It then runs desperately toward the guy, begging him not to attack. Completely confused, the former soldier asks why it's acting that way. The goblin then runs to the spider and tearfully asks it to open its eyes. The giant creature looks at it and seems to recognize its old friend's voice. Crying, it asks if she doesn't remember him after all this time apart. With tears in her eyes, the spider recognizes him, and the scene flashes back to the past. 150 years ago in the forest, the goblin was walking alone among the trees. Suddenly, he hears someone call him and responds to the mysterious voice in the woods. On a leaf, he finds a small red spider that won't stop talking. He picks it up and wonders if a species like that always existed in the forest. With a wicked smile, he invites it to come with him, and the spider accepts the invitation. The small creature is very happy and keeps repeating its name to the goblin. The spider then remembers the goblin in its house, sitting in a wooden chair. He says Lisa is too simple a name and suggests Eliza as a better alternative, but the little spider doesn't like it and jumps on the table to protest his idea. The goblin insists that her name should be Eliza, and not Lisa, no way. Seeing how stubborn she is, he says he's going to call her Eliza from now on anyway. The scene changes with him saying goodbye, as he needs to go to a dangerous place alone. The spider then asks if she can go with him, but the goblin doesn't let her come along. He says the place is very dangerous, and that she can't go with him under any circumstances. With a smile, he says he'll be back soon and leaves, leaving the little spider behind. The small creature is very sad to see her master leaving the house without her, but her master never came back, and the little spider was left alone forever. The scene shows the creature waiting in the house as night falls outside. The scene shows time passing, with the spider waiting for 110 and 100 years. With that, little Eliza waited for her master, never giving up on seeing him. So, she decides to go to the forest where she first met her friend. There, she keeps repeating the name he gave her so she won't forget him again. Back in the present, the little goblin cries and hugs his childhood friend. The former soldier then asks if this means he abandoned her in the past. Hearing that, the little servant is completely shocked and speechless. Without answering, the goblin just keeps crying and hugging the giant spider. The guy then asks why it stayed hidden for 150 years. The creature replies that it cannot say, as it's beyond its current ability. The player is completely confused and wonders what it means by that. With a sad face, the little guardian just apologizes to its master. Our hero becomes thoughtful about the situation and doesn't know what to do with them now. He then mutters that he can't skip the quest because it's a graduation quest for the game. His servant nods in agreement while sadly looking at the giant spider. Suddenly, the creature calls out to him, and he turns to her with a surprised look. The little goblin is completely confused and asks what she's talking about with him. He then shouts, "No," and the spider keeps repeating his name to him over and over. The guy turns to his servant and asks what's gotten into it to be yelling like that.